We're going to wake him up real fast this morning, folks. Congressman Jeff Crank of the 5th Congressional District down here in Colorado Springs joining us live in studio. We're going to get directly to him here right after the news with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, hump day, 34 and partly cloudy. God is giving us a gorgeous sunrise right now, 35 in the Springs, expecting highs in the low 50s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning. For a new home heating and cooling system, contact your Lennox dealer, Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at pastorcamp.com. That's with a K, by the way. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Our top story: efforts continue today to locate at least 9 skiers who've been missing since an avalanche hit near Lake Tahoe in California. Authorities say 6 people were rescued after the avalanche hit Tuesday, and 9 others remain unaccounted for. A deadly chain reaction crash involving 36 vehicles shut down I-25 near Pueblo on Tuesday. 4 deaths and 29 hospitalizations that involved 36 vehicles were reported. The crash was triggered by severe wind and low visibility conditions. Southbound lanes were reopened by mid-afternoon, but northbound I-25 remained closed late into Tuesday evening as crews continued cleanup and investigation efforts. Broomfield police asking the community for help identifying a man who police say ripped off about $1,000 worth of jeans from Jack's Broomfield outdoor gear farm and ranch. He stole $1,000 worth of Ariat jeans. You can see the photo of this clown on their social media sites. VP JD questioning why American-born skier Eileen Gu is representing China in the Winter Olympics. Good question. Vance says he thinks someone who grew up in America and benefited from the liberties that make America great should want to represent the U.S. The 22-year-old Gu was born in San Francisco to a Chinese mother and American father, but forget the American father. Forget him. Throw him out of there. The International Olympic Committee requires athletes to be citizens of the country they represent. China doesn't generally permit dual citizenship, and Gu won't talk about her citizenship status. So far, she's won 2 silver medals in Milan. The Nuggets paying tribute to former head coach Doug Moe. His death was announced on Tuesday. Moe led the Nuggets from 1980 to 1990, winning then a franchise record 432 games. He also led the Nuggets to playoffs 9 times, including an appearance in the Western Conference Finals in 1985. The Nuggets called Moe a one-of-a-kind leader and person, adding he will always be loved and remembered by the team's fans. He was 87 years old with an unbelievable sense of humor. He was awesome. Planning is underway in Chicago to honor the life of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson. The civil rights icon died Tuesday, also at the age of 84. Arizona police hoping Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker could give up clues about her disappearance. Authorities say they are using a signal sniffer to try and locate the 84-year-old's pacemaker. See, the U.S. men's hockey team, they'll meet Sweden in the quarterfinals today at the Winter Olympics. Team USA is the 2 seed after going 3-0 in group play. 35 in the Springs, 34 in Denver, and that's the latest. I'm Blake Olson. More of the Jeff and Bill Show ahead on News Talk 710 KNUS, and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
Wave number 1 came through Colorado yesterday, bringing high winds, mountain snow, and rain, snow showers, and strong gusty winds to the Front Range. We're going to be looking at gusty winds today as wave number 2 approaches. Now, wave number 2 is not going to have nearly the intensity of the wind, but it will bring another dose of wind and snow to the high country where avalanche dangers are on the rise. There will be a chance later today and tonight for Denver and Colorado Springs to see a few snow showers that can linger into Friday. Snow is not expected to be significant, but some snow showers will be possible, and you're going to notice it getting much colder. Highs today with increasing clouds and a few rain or snow showers will be low to mid-50s for Denver and Colorado Springs. Tonight, colder. A few snow showers, lows low to mid-20s. Noticeably colder, only 30s Thursday and Friday. Colorado Springs and Denver, a few snow showers, lows teens. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you hear the both sides of the issue. And right now, I'm in between two guys that like to go at it on the radio. We're honored to have live
you're called the
in
buffer.
Studio with us.
You're the barrier.
Right. Live in studio, Congressman Jeff Crank. He represents the 5th Congressional District from Colorado to Washington, D.C. That's the Colorado Springs area. Glad to have you here, sir.
Well, listen, I'm glad to have you here. It's good for you guys to come down, and you get a little classed up when you come down here in my neck of the woods.
Exactly right. And
This is
you
really nice.
started off in the studio, you were telling me.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, late 1999 or 2000 or something like that. I did my very first radio show that I hosted, I think, right here in this very studio.
Wow.
No way.
And
It wasn't very good, but I did do it. So.
That is
well, got
fantastic.
you to Congress, which helps. And we're down in Colorado Springs. We're now syndicated down into the Springs and enjoying all the colors, all the new text messages that are coming through. Because this is a unique show in that it's a right-left center debate show. All the other shows are oftentimes monologues out there, but we dive into the issues, understand, and people are invited to be a part of the conversation. Congressman, the government shut down again. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, it's a partial shutdown, and we were able to get things that we aren't dealing with that we dealt with before, like, we're paying our soldiers. That's not an issue because the Department of Defense appropriations bill was funded, as well as most of the rest of the government. Really, the only agency affected is Homeland Security. Of course, that includes things like FEMA, TSA. So those are the ones that are going to pinch. If we have a disaster or something and we need some FEMA assistance, it's going to be a little more difficult right now.
Well, and the Democrats focused on ICE, and they want to see reforms there. Republicans seem to be willing to agree to some.
Sure.
I don't mind the body cameras. That seems...
I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. But some of the other stuff, like banning agents from wearing masks, those types of things seem excessive. They want to reform training, all that stuff. But what do you think Republicans are willing to agree on with regards to ICE reforms, and where's the red line?
Yeah, well, first of all, they have enough funding for ICE till 2027. So that's not going to shut down any ICE operations. That was funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill. We gave them enough money to continue operations. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for Democrats to use that as a sticking point. What it is going to hurt, though, is of course FEMA and TSA and some of those other Homeland Security Agency type things. But my sense is we can come up with an agreement, like you said, body cams. I've never met actually an honest police officer who doesn't want a body cam. It protects them. Yes. It protects the 99.9% of good law enforcement officers who are out there. It also exposes that 0.1% who's really bad, and that's what we want. Everybody wants that. I was sort of aghast that we didn't have body cams on every single ICE agent. We appropriated $25 million in the One Big Beautiful Bill to do that and provide it. They just haven't been deployed yet. We need to get to that. On the face mask thing, I wish we didn't have to have face masks on police officers, but when you have people running around trying to interfere with law enforcement by doxing them and trying to expose their families to risk, I also want to protect our law enforcement officers too. So I don't think there should be a blanket ban on that. They also were looking at only having warrants. Well, that means you're never going to arrest somebody. You don't have a warrant when you pull somebody over and they're drunk, right? So we couldn't pull somebody over, find out that they violated the law or something, and get them on an immigration detainer. That's crazy. That's just saying we're not going to enforce our immigration laws. So normally you have to have a warrant if you're going to arrest somebody for a criminal process. I mean, there's lots of things that we can negotiate and work on, but I don't think that there's a lot there for the Democrats to push this out for too long and gain with.
Yeah, what do you think the end game is here? How long can they do this? Is it an election year ploy to keep ICE front and center?
Sure.
Does that benefit them? What's your take on all that?
Yeah, of course it is. I think they saw the last government shutdown. While I don't think it benefited Democrats or Republicans, it did energize the left's base. And they saw that. They saw that when they stood up to Donald Trump, that's what the left wants, the hard left wants that. When they do that, that base gets energized, and they want that energized for the midterms. I think the concern they should have and the risk that they run is that if you do that too long, I think the American people see what you're trying to do. They don't want mayhem. They do want our borders enforced. They don't want, obviously, protesters dying in the streets. They don't want people who are interfering with law enforcement to get away with it. But, they want calm. They want peace and security, and that's what Americans want. And if there's too much tumult, I think it will actually hurt the Democrats.
That's Congressman Jeff Crank live in studio. He represents Colorado Springs. Billy, you were going to ask questions about whether or not this is just where we're going to be when there's thin margins and budget debates. Are we just going to see a continued government shutdown over and over again anytime funding comes up?
What I want to know from Congressman Crank is this now status quo? Is this the only way that our Congress can pass financial issues or a budget at all is based on catastrophe? That until you realize that the assignment was due yesterday, y'all aren't going to do anything. Is this just the status quo now?
Well, I think I hope not, Bill. I don't know the answer to that question. I hope not.
Oh, darn. Well, that's the end of the interview. Sorry, I'm kidding.
It would be bad for our country if that's the case. But look, I think with very thin margins, we're down to a 2-seat majority now in the House. So we need everybody. One of them is Tom Massey. He doesn't like to vote with Republicans for the most part. So it's difficult to get him. And so it's kind of actually remarkable what we've been able to do in the House, I think, with the thin margin that we have. But we made progress this time by getting most of the appropriations bills done. That hasn't been done before in the last many years. It was good to get those done, even though we were a little late getting them done. We did. I won't say we returned to regular order, but we're back close to regular order, more so than we've been in a long time. I was disappointed to see this last government agency not get funded, Homeland Security. Hopefully we can rectify that.
Now, I want to follow up on that just for a second. Now, I am asking this question with my tongue firmly planted inside of my cheek.
Okay.
But oftentimes when we go through government shutdowns, you hear a group of people saying, do you notice anything? How's your life different? Does this matter? Can we make that argument here? What is the impact day to day on anybody's life of having this portion of the government shut down? And if we don't feel it, Is it a big deal? That's always the argument from those people saying it. What do you say?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We've got TSA. I think the biggest pinch point right now will be the TSA, right? If that starts affecting people, and I flew on, I think, Monday, and I had a 5.5 hour delay. It wasn't related to TSA. But if you start getting delays that are 5 hours long and it's somehow related to TSA, people will feel that. There's lots of points of government that close down and you don't feel it. And we should look at that. And does those parts need to still exist? The answer is no. They don't. But there are parts of government that need to exist. We do need ICE. We do need Border Patrol. We do need the Coast Guard, for goodness sakes, is affected right now. So there are parts of government that are shut down that really do matter right now. We need to get those open. But there's certainly parts that don't matter.
Now, I want to explore just for a sec the idea behind masks. Jeff and I had a debate on this as to whether or not masks should be required. I'm of two minds. I can see the idea of doxing and being afraid of that. However, we don't put masks on regular rank and file law enforcement, which have been doxed. We don't put masks on judges, which have been doxed. We don't put masks on prosecutors who have been doxed. So if the masks are there as a preventative measure for doxing, why don't we mask everybody else involved in the process? Or if it really is about the act of doxing, I hate to point the finger at Congress, but y'all could make a federal law that would make that doxing illegal. So is the best solution when people are being doxed to just say, it's okay for you to wear masks?
Well, look, I'll be all in favor. I'll go next week back to some of my Democrat colleagues and see if they're willing to co-sponsor a bill with me that says if you dox federal law enforcement agent, it's a felony to do so.
Okay, wait. Just pause just for a sec. Okay, we're going to take odds on. Jeff's going to go first. I'm going to go second, and then Congressman Crank's going to go third.
One in a million that they'll buy into that.
I would go that way too. I don't think there's a damn way they're going to because they got politics made, and I'm certain you'd agree with us on that one. Okay, sorry, continue. Yeah, there's no way.
But I think that's reality. Look, there are people that get doxed. We ask law enforcement to do very difficult things. And, at local law enforcement, I go on ride-alongs with our sheriff's office and our police department and others. They do tremendously difficult things. Very brave people. And we've got to make it easy for them to do it. We saw when there was this sort of, the war on police that happened. Everybody understands that happened. And we saw
defund the police thing. That was stupid. Yeah.
And we saw a drop in the recruitment of quality police officers. We're still trying to recover in Colorado Springs and get our numbers back up to where we want them. And so we've got to be really careful when we mess with that. So look, I get it. I don't like law enforcement being masked, but I'm also not willing to say that I want to ask federal law enforcement or any law enforcement to show up and risk being doxxed. So we got to find a better solution.
I got a solution. I wonder if you'd be amenable to this. And the reason that I think it is a compromise, so I don't think there's a damn Democrat that is going to sign up on this one. But would you be amenable to having at least a conversation, not 100%, but the idea of allowing them to be masked, but they would have to have department identification, what department they're from, on their person. They would also have to have some sort of an identifying badge number and maybe even a last name. I'm okay. What I'm pushing on the badge number is because I don't believe at least our system right now allows a private citizen to dox someone based on a badge number. But if you have a complaint, that badge number is primarily important in that instance. Mm-hmm. I think we could get around some of the issues, but I'm not certain that there's a darn Democrat that would agree with me on that one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I'm willing to look at that. I'm very uncomfortable with having, this isn't Colombia, right?
Yeah.
Where we have folks running around with masks fighting each other.
Yep.
We don't want that in the United States. We also don't want law enforcement being targeted. So I'm amenable to looking at any kind of thing like that would protect our law enforcement so that they could do their job and feel comfortable to do their job. I'm open to looking at what's.
And here's the example that I'm going to just push, and then it's your turn, Jeff. Yeah. Sorry, I've taken up way too much time here. This is the example why I firmly believe that the Democrats are not being honest brokers on this issue. And I've thrown that rock at Republicans as well in different times, because I don't think that, given the conversation we just have, which seems like most of our listeners would find that to be an acceptable compromise, I don't think you could have a single Democrat that would even begin to have the conversation with you. So I think they're not coming from a genuine point of wanting to negotiate with you.
Jeff, do you think it's the altitude when you bring him to the height? I think when you bring him to the height, he really does. I think it's great, Bill.
That's fantastic. I like this.
Let's talk, speaking of identification, the SAVE Act.
Yeah, the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act.
You got to pass the House.
We got to pass the House. Yeah, we sure did. I mean,
will you talk about how racist America is that we require identification to get on airplanes?
I will. It's amazing, and you've seen it on social media. You've probably seen it. One of my colleagues, you're not supposed to take pictures on the House floor, but they took a picture of their voting card going into the box that we vote with, which is ironic that you had half of Congress literally pull out their photo ID that allows them to vote in the U.S. House of Representatives, stick it in a box, and then vote no for requiring voter ID. Look, we make this too hard. That's common sense. It's common sense to the American people. Democrats will lose this debate if they don't get on board. It's an 80-20 or 90-10 issue. It's common sense to people. There are people who will say things like, well, but we have mail-in ballots and we can't use voter ID. Why can't you? Georgia passed that great voter ID law, which, by the way, increased participation in the last election. It didn't suppress it like the left was saying was going to happen. More people voted in the last election than voted in the previous off-year or in the previous presidential election. And so what they do, as I understand it, is they require you, when you send in your mail-in ballot, you write your driver's license number on the envelope and you send it in. That's then checked against, before the ballot is counted, that driver's license number is checked to see if the person who it was sent to is the person who's sending that ballot in. There's easy ways to do this. We're smart enough to figure it out. We can put a man on the moon, right? We can figure these other things out. I think we could figure this one out if we wanted to without disenfranchising people.
You're about to watch the reasonableness fly out of the room. All right, Bill, your response to Congressman
back
Crank?
to a lower elevation.
Yeah, the thing that I look at is don't you already have to provide that photo ID to register to vote, especially in Colorado? So if I'm going into the DMV, et cetera, they're vetting me that way. What I'm curious about is why we think that me showing that ID later on prevents massive fraud. One of the problems, as you outlined, being mail-in ballots. Unless we go to a in-person type of a voting system at the polling places like we did old school, I'm not certain that the voter ID or providing a photo ID does anything. And then on the second tier of that, the safety bar, the person that is doing the checking, are normally senior citizens that are volunteers. So if our safety and elections are secure based on us providing a photo ID that for decades teenagers have faked, and that our barrier are senior citizen volunteers, are we really concerned about safety?
Well, I think, first of all, what you started off saying is here in Colorado we do this. But we're talking about a federal law, so they don't do that in all states. So what we do here in some cases is, like, for instance, we have signature verification, which is a good thing. But when they had it in Pennsylvania, when they decided to go to mail-in ballots in 2020 in Pennsylvania, they didn't have signature verification. So that's why the process was messed up. We should have a standard for federal elections that we can ensure that they're as void of corruption as we can possibly get. Now, you're never going to stop it all, I'm sure, but we want as much fraud out of the system as we possibly can. And, the system I described in Georgia, I think would be a good one. You talked about little old ladies checking it. I'm saying if you had to write your driver's license number down on the envelope that you're sending in the ballot, on a mail-in ballot, if you had to do that, it's the state looking in their database. They're going to know if it's a fake ID or not. If it's a fake ID, they'd catch that, right?
And the place that would fit is, right now, the example for all of us in Colorado is you take your ballot and then you put it inside of an envelope and you sign that envelope, and then there's another envelope that's mailed in. So there's a secondary, and that would be the idea, is you're not putting your driver's license, your signature on the outside facing front of the ballot, of the mail. So someone, that goes through mail can't pull your driver's license and signature,
right? Because
that would be the issue, is then I'm just going to go hit all mailboxes and take everybody's ID. And identification, but we have it on a secondary envelope. You've got more of a and again,
deterrence. I mean, you're figuring it out now, how to figure something like that out. And so I just say the argument that the left is making on this voter ID thing is, oh no, it's racist, it's going to cause people to not be able to vote. I mean, there's people who can't fly if they don't have a photo ID. There's people who can't do lots of things, right? And so we ought to be smarter about this and make sure that our elections are secure.
My argument on it is kind of going back to what I said, and we did do this on You Choose the News a couple of days ago. I know you don't listen every day, but because you're so busy. It's not because you don't like the show. It's
not that I don't want to,
Yeah,
Bill.
exactly.
He actually has things to do. Yeah.
Has a lot to do with me, too. But on You Choose the News, we talked about a bar that has recently changed their entry point to 25 years or older. They won't let you in until 25 because the younger kids from 21 and below were having a whole bunch of fake IDs. They were catching all these fake IDs.
Yeah.
And so the question that I've got is, why are we assuming that the ID, a technology that teenagers have been able to hack for decades, is going to be the way that we secure the elections?
Yeah.
Just that's the premise of it. I'm not against an ID. It's just the premise of this obviously very scammable form of identification is not the securest thing that we could do.
But let me challenge that a little bit.
Please.
In your example, you're talking about a bartender looking at an ID and saying, "Oh yeah, that's valid or not." In my example of you writing that number, you're talking about the Secretary of State taking that and comparing it to the database that they have at the Department of Revenue or whatever else.
You know what the bar did? You know what the bar had, though? The bar had an electronic scanner. So they would scan the IDs to see if they were valid from the state. And the guys that were scamming them found out a way to do that as far as the ID. So that's the idea of when you go, like when you go to the convenience store or you go to you go to some of the liquor stores and they have to scan your ID. That's what they figured out. So they even went so far as to get to that electronic. Yeah. The way they caught it was because one of the bartenders did look at the ID, and the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back was they had a founding father that was asking to drink. It was Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was at the time 24 years old, and his address was at the Liberty Bell. So yeah, it was that person looking at it that was
good.
good.
On this, and I got one more question for you. I know we're up against your time limit here, but your final response.
Well, I just think this is the American people want it. They want to know that their elections are secure. Another provision, of course, there is the first time you register to vote to prove that you're a citizen of the United States. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I think people should. I think it's just too easy here to come in and commit fraud. And by here, I don't necessarily mean Colorado. I mean the United States, because we have all these different states that are running elections. We ought to have a standard that makes sense and that prevents fraud.
That's Congressman Jeff Crank. He's a congressman from the 5th Congressional District here in Colorado, representing Colorado Springs. Final question, because you got a very busy day. We're very glad to have you here.
Yeah, really nice.
Are the American people, speaking of satisfied with what the Department of Justice has released regarding the Epstein files?
Oh, I don't think they're satisfied with it. We shouldn't be satisfied anytime we see some of the depravity and the horrible things that were done, that Epstein and his crew did. Look, from the very beginning, I was for complete and full disclosure and kind of let the chips fall where they may. It's an ugly process, but we have to go through it. You can't, hiding stuff isn't going to make it better. And so there's going to be things out there, and there are. And I understand why some people didn't want that stuff out there, because there's allegations that are completely unproven in this. I mean, I saw Whoopi Goldberg yesterday, whose name came up, just her name, in the Epstein files. She had no connection to it, but she was on The View talking about, well, look, I'm innocent because my name was in the file, and she was saying, well, but what about other people whose names were also in there? And so it's a messy process. My goal in all of that was to get everything out there except the victims' names and identifiers of who the victims were. And I do think the Department of Justice, in some regards, messed that up. They actually put some of the victims' names out. I don't think it was intentional, but I think they did it, sloppily did it. And that's beyond unfortunate, because those poor ladies were victimized twice, and it should never have happened. But we need to hold people accountable. It isn't enough just to get it out there. If there were crimes that were committed, people need to be prosecuted. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans.
How do you think Pam Bondi's doing?
Well, I mean, it's a tough job being the Attorney General. I think, she's doing okay on some things. I wish she'd move faster on a lot of other things. I think it's a tough job, and I think this president is a very demanding president. He wants Pam Bondi probably to move faster as well. But look, I think the department's done a good job on some cases, but they need to move faster on others.
Yeah. What brings you back to the district, or I guess what are the big issues you're focusing on while you're back in the district this time?
Well, today's Veterans Day, so I've got some key staff members from the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House. We're going to be meeting later today, have several meetings. We're going to be visiting Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center here in town. We're going to have a discussion with veterans about ways that we can, the VA system can help them better. So that's today. We're doing that, and just doing a lot of different meetings. I had a sort of I guess it was a meet and greet last night. Probably had 80 people at it at a lady's house. So just getting out and meeting folks and talking to them.
Yeah, and you got an election coming up in November, so I'm sure that's going to take up some of your time as well.
Yeah, I got some busy moments ahead for sure, Jeff.
That's Representative Jeff Crank. You can follow him on X at Rep Jeff Crank, x.com/Rep Jeff Crank. See the work that he's doing. Connect with him. He represents you in Washington, D.C., so he wants to hear from you. More importantly, I think he wants to find ways that he can serve you and take on some of the issues that you might be facing. So x.com/Rep Jeff Crank. Congressman, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for having us. Welcome down to this new market, and we're proud to have you.
Well, we'd love to hear from you.
So
Give
cool.
us a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get both sides. Look, we're hanging with the congressman. We are so cool now. We'll be right back. This is The Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides of an issue. Wrapping up our conversation with Congressman Jeff Crank.
Yeah.
Billy, your reflections.
Oh, I love him. I think he's fantastic because he and I don't agree on much of anything. But as I was telling him, he can dance. And I like the way that he thinks. I believe that he's very contemplative. I don't think he's dogmatic.
And when you
we have a lot
dance,
of fun.
You don't mean like dance around an issue. You mean he can jump on the dance floor.
Yes, he can get in the ring and we can do it.
Right?
Yeah, the idea is when that song hits, he's going to get out there and he's got moves. And so it's the idea of, I hate to, and I don't like to put it in the idea of boxing, but a sparring partner, that he can go. And he's one of the people that can keep up with what we are doing. And I really appreciate what he brings to the table, even though he and I don't always agree on issues. But as you saw when we're talking about the masks and other things, we can find some common sense agreement and compromise. And I think that's what is so valuable to hear from lawmakers, is the idea that this union is built around compromise, that in order to get what you want, you're not going to get everything you want, but you have to find something reasonable that kind of sits in the middle. And in fact, I was late, a little out of breath, running back here into the studio here in the corner because I was helping him fill his pockets with all the free stuff that's in the... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just was navigating the water for him as he was heading out of here.
I think we have a phone call. Is that right, John? Paul from Colorado Springs. Let's go to the phone lines. Paul, you're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning, Paul.
Hey, good morning. Great conversation. Actually, I was pretty surprised a little bit about some of his answers. Great questions you asked him. Touch a little bit on the mask thing. You know, if our state and our police would work with ICE, we probably wouldn't need to have them wear masks because they can pick them up from the jails and cooperate with them.
Yeah.
What
I
do you
can see
think
that.
about that?
I like that idea. I'm not certain that I think it gets us to no masks, Paul. And the reason why is I think you'd still have some of the other protests, and I think you'd still have groups of people out there that are trying to dox them as they're running through neighborhoods. But where I think you are 110% correct is the idea of not allowing local law enforcement to work with ICE with people already in custody. I think that is the biggest problem with those that are defending sanctuary cities, because unless you're defending the idea that anybody that is either prosecuted or accused of a crime needs to be wandering the streets randomly, again, we have reasonable bail, stuff like that, but unless you're arguing about that, there's absolutely no plank to stand on by saying that local law enforcement shouldn't be working with ICE in order to get people that are charged with crimes or even convicted out of the state. That seems reasonable because, remember what we voted for, Paul. The idea is, and I'm using we as the royal we in America, of getting the worst of the worst out. That's where we were supposed to start. And when local law enforcement doesn't assist with ICE and immigration getting the worst of the worst out, it hurts everyone. That, to me, is what erodes the plank or any of the claims of sanctuary cities being necessary. I think you're right.
You know, I can agree with that 100%. What I'd like to see more is we start protecting our state line. Not, you know, we're so worried about the border. Let's take control of our own state. Let's get some of these bad criminals out, and let's start changing the law and holding people accountable. Everything's a misdemeanor in Colorado. I just don't understand it.
Well, that's
a good
part
point.
and parcel with progressive leadership, that the real criminals, according to progressives, are political opponents, and actual criminals are just people that are misunderstood and needed a hug. That's how progressives think. Well, Paul, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the call,
talk.
man.
Dan Kaplis with Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests that you choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis, the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan also bringing a $200 million verdict to a family who lost their little daughter in that Glenwood Springs accident. at the amusement park there. He got justice for that family and actually improved safety for all of us by doing that. Dan Caplis, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number. Just put it in your phone right now. 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. We'll continue. More to come of the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And proudly broadcasting from AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll be right back.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And broadcasting from AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you hear both sides of an issue. I was intrigued by Congressman Jeff Crank's statements on Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Pam's getting it from all angles these days.
Yeah. In fact, and also just want to let Congressman Crank know, if he's listening as he's driving away from the studio, we are broadcasting Colorado Springs from his old studio, and we are searching under every single inch of the studio to find things about you, just in case you left something behind. That's right. When he brought up Pam Bondi, I was interested because of two things. There's part of me that thinks if I'm a betting man and I'm going to Vegas, I'm putting money down on either Kristi Noem or Pam Bondi being the first cabinet position to be thrown off the island, be the first survivor.
So? First one, huh?
That's what I'm thinking. Is there's got to be a first. There's always going to be a first. It rarely do you go the entire way.
Who do you replace her with?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying that if we're just laying the bets down. I mean, if you were going to have a bet as far as first cabinet secretary that would leave, maybe thrown off, maybe too rush or too harsh, just leaving for whatever reason. Yeah. I think that Bondi and Noem are the most likely, but you may see it differently. What would you do? What do you think?
Well, you'll have some that leave just because, they're ready to move on. And the job, like if
you're getting yelled at restaurants,
if you're the Secretary of Education at this point.
Yeah, that's true. But again,
already wrapped it up.
But still, you can still, as long as the check keeps coming. I mean, wouldn't you just keep showing up to the office?
Let's go to the phone lines. Ron from Greeley. Good morning, Ron. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Morning, guys. Hey, I'm just curious, why exactly are they not wanting ICE to wear masks?
Because it becomes a secret police force. It's the idea of not being able to identify them, and it's wrapped in with just not masks. Masks are the pain point, but the core of it is in many cases there's no identifier of what law enforcement division they belong to. If you go back and you look at I think in the Good case, a couple of them were wearing it, but in the Peretti case, most of the people involved in that incident were not wearing any sort of identification based on what department they belong to. There also is no badge on them. There's no badge number and no last name, and then no face. So when you combine all of those together, you equal an anonymous police force. And that's what really the core of it is.
All right. Now, I'm curious, because I've seen pictures of SWAT, and they wear masks, and they're all blacked out. What do they do that ICE doesn't?
Badges, badge number, last name on their uniform.
Okay, so why? So in other words, if they were to put like maybe a big number on their jersey, they're assigned a number that gives complete identification as to who that person is, put a badge and last name, and then they can still wear a mask?
See, Rod, this is the thing is that's what I would do, because I understand the idea of keeping the masks because of doxxing, because of facial recognition software. So I understand that. And while I really, really dislike the idea of masks covering the face of law enforcement, for me, the more important part is be able to identify the individual in case something in the incident goes sideways. How do you do it? And for me, the face isn't good enough in that incident. Let's say that you, myself, Jeff, anybody in your social circle, Rod, is being harassed. We'll just take the worst possible scenario. You're being harassed by law enforcement. Whether or not you can see the person's face is somewhat irrelevant compared to badge number and last name. Yeah. That's how you identify them. And so that's why I think the Democrats are being performative and political with their argument against masks. I think they could do more with just give me a badge number, give me a last name, and you're fine.
Yeah, because the thing of it is, one, it does. When you're wearing a mask and you're coming at people, that's in,
it's intense.
Fear, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you get scaredness. So just be a law-abiding citizen. If you're not a law-abiding citizen, come at them in a scaring manner with the mask. I have zero problem with it. I have 100% problem with them not being able to be identified, and I think you just cleared that up. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And this thing is, Rod, I would say this. Thanks, Rod. Appreciate you, man. And Jeff will appreciate this one. We're going to jump back into Black Lives Matter and talk about it. Remember when, the sun started going down and there was a changeover in some of the people that showed up and started to cause trouble in those Black Lives Matter protests, And those were the people that showed up, and they were masked. And that was the reason.
They didn't have badge numbers.
Nope, they didn't. But that was the reason. It was the anonymity. And if it is just as bad in those situations, in my mind, it is just as bad for law enforcement. Put the name, put the badge number, put the department on there. I'm okay with not even having last name as long as I have a badge number, because I can't dox you based on a badge number. That seems to be a reasonable compromise. But this is the test that you heard us give to Jeff Crank. Let's see if the Democrats would be willing to make that compromise. That tells you immediately exactly where they are. Is this really about law enforcement and private safety, or is it more about politics? If they are insisting on no masks and they're not going to make the compromise with badge numbers and names, you know exactly where they stand. They're making this
Let's
politics.
go back to the phone lines. Mark in Denver. Good morning, Mark. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning, Mark.
How are you?
Good,
Look,
how are you?
I wanted to comment on Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem. Okay, when the government shutdown comes, how you don't feel if something has really changed or not. Many things is all behind the scenes, but I think Pam Bondi is doing great because 98% of all attorneys are liberal, and there is no way she's going to move these cases through until she can clean it out and do some things. That guy get some better people, because almost all the attorneys will sabotage these cases that are liberal. Almost all of them. And it's way different than being Pete Hexas in defense. That's almost like getting a cheerleader back for the team. But for Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem, I think that's the most politicized branches. And there is no way she's going to get that former FBI guy convicted in Virginia. And they got screwed up to begin with. I would, and with this thing with Epstein, how many man hours did it take to go through that file on this bull crap that's just ridiculous. He's dead. Throw the key away on Jocelyn, whatever his girlfriend's name is, and go on. And then try to get the better people in the offices, because there's no way in hell that this is going to work for a Attorney General, a highly liberal organization like the Justice Department, or Pam.
I got a question mark on that one, just for a sec. The idea of the Epstein list. Now, Pam Bondi, famously, in front of Congress, said that she had the Epstein client list on her desk. She now says it doesn't exist. We had FBI Director Kash Patel say that if Jeffrey Epstein had committed crimes, he would have been charged. He also said that Donald Trump appeared less than 500 times in the Epstein files. All of those statements have been proven false. Where I'm going with this is two parts. Do you think that Donald Trump will ever get to the point that Pam Bondi isn't doing what Trump wants her to do? The second part of this is the Epstein files. If we're really mad about the deep state and those power brokers that keep everything away from us, aren't the Epstein files the perfect opportunity to root out that deep state?
No.
Your thoughts?
Because it focuses on a couple people, maybe 500 victims, I don't know how many, but what are we going to gain from that? You see, I mean, if they want to go through and pick out names of people who are known, like Bill Clinton, Pritzker's cousin, that sort of thing, that's fine, but there is no way you're going to ever make this work against these things until the Department of Justice either gets a couple years down the road. And I think Donald Trump likes Pam Bondi because she's a lot like him. She's a loose cannon. She exaggerates, says things that aren't completely true. That's true.
See,
but I think they're coming out.
Mark, I'm telling you, when you're telling me about the Epstein files and that you're like, no, let's let it go. For me, if we are not going to do anything on the Epstein files or do any larger investigation, I am of the opinion everybody needs to shut the hell up about the deep state. Because if we're not going to investigate this type of an idea, there are schools across the country right now that are pulling away from LifeTouch, one of the companies that took pictures of the kids because the CEO seemed to have a very friendly relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. So if that can happen in the private realm, shouldn't we have at least that much standard, if not higher, inside of our public officials?
I hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. Okay, but let me say this: find the people who are the victims, give them some cause of action against whoever they can get relief from, which may be nobody. Find the people with the most egregious crimes. A few of them, get after them, but there's going to be so many. You think they're ever going to convict Bill Clinton? of anything if he did anything wrong?
And
I
look,
don't-
just about every Democrat in Colorado accepted money from Reid Hoffman,
Yeah.
the founder of
I mean,
LinkedIn, who's on all those files.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
giving the money back.
No, not at all. They aren't.
How many man hours is it going to take to go through the Epstein files? And I know you can use AI, and I know there's things like that. But here's the thing: I get you've got to do. Maybe I need to walk back a bit. What I said, you got to do something to some things, but man, there's just too much to go on here, and you got to go for it. But it's almost impossible with the Department of Justice the way it is. And
Mark
Homeland
Denver,
Security.
I appreciate the call.
that, man. Like the
Thanks
way you
so
think.
much. All right, coming up in the next hour, Ford Amphitheater down here in Colorado Springs.
Are we getting free tickets?
Making a lot of noise.
Hey,
these
free
days.
tickets.
And the neighbors not thrilled about it. We're going to have some of the plaintiffs filing in that lawsuit. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.